Welcome to Hospitality Connection, the podcast where we bring together hospitality experts, innovators, and leaders to share insights, strategies, and stories from the world of hotels, restaurants, and beyond. Each week, Scott Samuels and Alex Gould, your hosts, dive into the latest trends, challenges, and opportunities in hospitality, giving you practical insights and inspiration to thrive in today's industry. Let's connect, learn, and grow together. This is Hospitality Connection.
Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome to the Hospitality Connection podcast with Alex Gould, Scott Samuels, and today's guest, Claudia Guzman. Now, Claudia and I connected a few months ago. We were sharing some compensation questions back and forth through the compensation report that we put out at Horizon. She popped over, asked a couple questions. We got on a call, built up a relationship. And since then, I just felt it was really, really cool about how she transitioned her career to focus in HR and her approach to HR in general. So I wanted to get her on the show. I wanted people to hear her approach, her background, her insight, and her career development. So Claudia, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it. Before we start bombarding you with questions and trying to get to know you and your background here, you want to share a little bit about how you got in the seat that you're in today?
Yeah. I won't say when I started my hospitality career because that'll give away how old I am. But I currently am head of people at the Line US, Ned and Saguaro. And basically we have 6 properties that I help manage the human resource side. And I started my career really with wanting to own a restaurant. And that kind of evolved to where I am now, which is funny. I always say, maybe I'll own a restaurant one day if I hit the jackpot, but I don't play. So that might never happen. But yeah, I fell in love with HR. I guess I didn't really realize that it existed. And when I had to do an internship in college, I was kind of forced to do it, not really. But I made a deal with the counselor and said, okay, listen, I'll go to the interview if you let me have 2 restaurant internships versus 1 hotel and 1 restaurant. And I don't know, I think 20 years later, here I am now, still in HR.
Very nice. Very nice. So owning a restaurant was the dream, was the passion behind it, did an internship, and landed into HR. What was it about the internship specifically that really got you in that mindset of shifting your career?
Yeah, I really like helping people, especially people that maybe only speak one language and they live in the United States, don't know how to really speak English just yet, but they're trying to make a living. And it appealed to me to be able to help them. And I do like admin work, which is really weird. I know a lot of people don't, but it's admin work, but it's also people connection, right? And I think one of the things with wanting to own a restaurant was that connection with food, the connection with having fun with your family and friends in an environment that you love, right? And that's why you go to restaurants, the food and the what they put on within the restaurant and how you feel when you're there. And I felt that I could also do that with human resources, right? Helping people, not only that, had language barriers, but also others as well. And I do love hospitality. I worked in hospitality. My first job was at a water slide park that no longer exists in a small town called Manteca, California. But I loved it, right? I fell in love with that connection with people who were there to travel and to have fun and to enjoy themselves. And so then that kind of transpired into the HR role within a hotel, because that's the only way I know HR, within hotels. Mm-hmm. I mean, I started back when I did the internship, it was in a hotel. And, one of the things that my counselor convinced me to do the internship was like, listen, you speak Spanish, they need a Spanish speaker. you want to own a restaurant one day. Hello, there's restaurants in hotels. I was like, okay. And so then it all just kind of came together, and I loved it, and have, I wouldn't say stuck because I love it, right? I've
Yeah.
been, this has been a profession that I love, and you do get burnt out sometimes, I think. But that's when you change it up and maybe you move to a new position, a new job. And I mean, I was reignited when I went over to the Hotel del Coronado as an assistant director of HR, and I just fell in love with HR again. And so, and I'm still here. So
Yeah. And that's such a beautiful property. I spent a lot of time there. I go there at least once a year when I go back out to San Diego.
Yep.
Yeah, great property. And just as an aside, I'm kind of happy that you haven't won the lotto, because owning restaurants is extremely difficult, time consuming. It is a lot of fun. I did it for a long time. But I have a hard time seeing myself back in that position. But it is something I feel, working in the service industry, whatever role it is, for 6 months, every person in the world should have to experience that. You learn how to treat people, you learn how to take guest complaints and make someone's experience better after hearing that. So with that in mind, how has your F&B background, how has that helped shape the way you lead people now?
Yeah, it really helped my career, and it still is. But in the beginning, it was kind of like, oh, this HR manager, this HR director knows what I'm talking about when I say a Queen Mary, or when I have to carry 10, dishes on a tray. Like, well, I did that too, So being able to connect with them and understand their language, when it comes to work, really helped myself, professionally, and it helped resonate kind of that, whenever they had issues, or whenever they needed advice. So it's definitely helped my career, just having that background. Because within hospitality, I mean, food and beverage is such a huge role in our job. And so it's just, obviously speaking Spanish helps, but when you know actually what the people what they're doing on the floor, it's 10 times better because you can communicate better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Claudia, you've transitioned your career from big box hotels, the Conrad in Los Angeles, and as we said, the Hotel del Coronado in San Diego, into a much smaller lifestyle brand. So how's that transition been for you, and what type of learning lessons have you gained because of it?
Yeah, I was obviously afraid, right? You go from big box hotels with, what they say is a lot of resources, and which is true, right? But that was kind of the biggest thing I think that we think about when we work for a big brand, is you're afraid to go to a smaller brand, because you think maybe there's less resources, or you think that, you know, the opportunities aren't as big as they would be with big box brands. But once my friend convinced me to apply for this position, and I went through the process and I started the new job, I was like, I love it. I absolutely love it. I loved working for the big box hotels as well. And I thought I would miss it, but I don't. Like, it's nice to have a voice, because I think sometimes with the big box, you get a little bit lost in translation, while you're on the property. There's so many layers that that definitely helps, but then also your opinion is a little bit smaller, right?
Sure,
And so
sure.
when you go to a smaller company, I mean, it feels, the support that you have and the communication you have with the properties, it's just so much more compared to what I could have had before.
Yeah, and,
Right.
and you probably have a bigger impact on the decision-making process, and the decision-making process is probably quicker than what you're accustomed to in the larger properties. So I'm sure that's been more
Absolutely.
enjoyable, because sometimes the bureaucracy you have to go through in a larger property is frustrating. So I can understand, why you would be enjoying this more. What, for a company of your size, what do you feel attracts talent to your organization? What type of things are you doing? What type of things do you feel the industry should be doing to attract top talent?
Yeah, one thing that was kind of hard for me at the beginning to understand kind of this brand, because we talk a lot about being yourself and being able to be yourself at work, which is great, right? And being very involved in the community that the hotel sits. And so it was just it was nice to see that, because I was used to, no, you wear a name tag and you have to wear your hair this way and you have to look this way and you have to have a suit jacket on, and coming to this brand, which is more boutique, luxury, it's completely different. And I love it, right? Because we have employees that can express themselves. They can have, I think Big Box finally came around and had let people wear tattoos and that kind of stuff. But it's just nice having people like, sometimes when you work for a place, people don't really know you outside of work. And when they see you, they're like, whoa, who are you? Like, yes, at work, I see you in this suit and this, and here, I can't recognize you. That's not the case here. They look exactly like they look at work, that they look when they're out on the town, right?
So you think that is what attracts people to come work with the line and you specifically? What about more holistically? Just, companies out there, what would you say to candidates that are applying to some of these roles to stand out?
Yeah, within our brand, we have, I think, you're aware of, but we have our hotels, which is the line. Then we have the Neds in the US, which is the Ned Nomad in New York, and then the Ned in DC that we just opened up, which is a club membership type, right? Both of the Neds are. And so there's that different aspect as well. Like if you want to, learn membership, you have that opportunity. And then we are transit. We opened the Ned about a year and a half ago or so. So we're growing. And then also we have a hotel in Palm Springs that we're going to be eventually changing into hopefully a line. And so there's the opportunity there, for kind of like an opening, right? And so I think it not only having a focus on being able to be who you are within the company, but then also you have these opportunities with different types of brands as well, with club membership, which you don't really see at other hotels and big box brands. And then also the involvement we have in the community is by far a lot more than I've seen in any other hotel that I've worked with.
What do you mean by that? What does that involvement look like?
Yeah, so we have brand managers on property that essentially just work with the community to, have yoga classes every Saturday on a rooftop deck, or we have live DJ sessions at Line DC. They have a studio within the hotel. So it's very, very important that we incorporate the community into what we're doing. And I don't know if you've ever been to one of our hotels, but our lobbies are always full of people on their laptops.
Oh, yeah.
And that's kind of our concept. Come in, let's be a community, let's connect. And while you enjoy some music, some food, some, service. And so I don't see that at other hotels, and that's kind of our focus at our hotels. Yes.
Well, if you're looking for another DJ, Scott on the weekends performs all over Miami and South Florida and is looking for his next gig.
Amazing.
I'm booked for the next 2 years. That's the only problem.
That's all right. Third year.
We'll send you his demo. So now that you've just hypothetically speaking, you've hired, you onboarded folks for one of your new hotel openings. In your opinion, where does the retention start? Is it interview? Is it onboarding? Is it the first 90 days? How do you keep people on property, on site, and enthused about working with you?
Yeah, I feel being able to recruit and retain starts from the get-go. So the people coming to interview for positions should also be interviewing us to see if they want us as an employer. Did the interviewer show up on time? Did they make me wait in the lobby for 30 minutes? Did they have me come back to the property 4 times? Wasted my time and resources. And so I think it starts there, right? When you show respect from the beginning for someone that's making time to come see you and talk to you on property, it takes a lot, right? Especially here in LA, you're in traffic for an hour to get, 10 miles.
Yeah.
So respecting people's time and showing your professionalism there is really, really important, right? Did you do the interview in a safe space where it's not open and distracting of seeing people walking around, right? And then from there, I think in order to retain your new hire once they start, super important, the 30, 60, 90 days. And I'm sure you'll hear people say this, but what I mean by that is, did you train them correctly, right? Did you give them time to learn the menu? Let's say it's a server. Did you give them time to learn, exactly what's on the menu? Did they shadow? Did they do this? Because most of the time what you'll see is someone just gets thrown in to the fire because we need a body, right?
Yep.
And that's not how you should do things. You should do an extensive training. Yes, serving is serving, but you got to learn the brand. You got to learn what's on the menu. You got to learn the kitchen. You got to learn everything, right? And how do we communicate with our guests? And what type of brand are we?
Yeah.
And then once you train them, you also need to give them the tools that they need to do their job. Because I'm sorry, if I'm a server and I don't have enough ramekins for butter, guess what? I'm going to start doing it on something else and it's not going to look nice,
Yeah.
right? But you don't want that frustration. So I think it leads up to from when you interview, when you train, and when, the 30, 60, 90 days, are you being treated with respect? Is the general manager looking at you and smiling and saying hi? Is everyone in the hallways, are the sales managers being, treating you the same way as your fellow coworker is?
Yeah.
And so we're all the same in one. So I think it begins from the beginning and it's through the first couple of months of your hire.
Yeah. You mentioned the word brand a few times, and I like to talk about the brand, the concept, as much as I enjoy talking about the employer brand.
Mhm.
Right? Who are you to your employees matters just as much, if not more, than what your brand stands for to the consumers, your customers, or clients, and your guests.
Yeah.
So, what is the line doing? What are you doing to keep that employer brand at top of mind, right? How do you keep people, that internal culture there, the people's excitement about working with you? Because, most of the time when you're hiring, hopefully it's a positive referral from someone that already works within your company.
Yep. It's important to know who you work for and who you're representing. So if you don't understand that, then you're missing the whole point, right? And so, I told you that we like to be involved with the community. So that's something that we involve our employees in as well, right? So I do a yoga session for the community around us, but then let's have one for our employees too, so that they know what we're doing, right? And so just involving them in the process as well is really, really important. For the Ned Nomad in New York, employees get to stay at the property to experience what the members do.
That's
And
awesome.
yeah, and so that's really important, right? They get to see the room because I guarantee you there's people who work at places that have never been inside a room, have never been to the restaurant. And so just providing them access to how what kind of experience our members get, then you're ahead of the game.
Yeah. Now, we hit a little bit on, why people stay, right? That employer brand, that culture, driving good work environments for people to feel as though they are, accomplishing something at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Now, you've worked the full gamut of sizes of organizations, corporate, non-corporate. From what you've seen, why do people leave an organization?
I think people leave organizations because they're not being involved in the process. They're not being communicated by their management team. And they're not talking about succession.
Mhm.
And so, if I came in as a busser, but I eventually want to be a bartender and then maybe a sales manager, like, are those conversations happening? Are you giving them the tools necessary to be able to get to where they want? So if you're not, guess what? They're going to leave. Right.
Yeah.
And so I think those three things are very important, and you need to be able to to realize that as a manager and say, no, she's great as a busser. I'm going to keep her there. That's not how we should operate, because guess what? She's going to go somewhere else to be a server.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the reasons we know that individuals leave a company to go to another, because there is no growth potential for them. It's sometimes that's not important to an individual and they just want to focus on their job. But for the majority of people that want to move up in a company, growth potential is really important. So, with that said, how early in someone's employment do you have your team members or yourself get involved in talking about future potential and the growth they can have with the company?
Yeah, I mean, our standard is essentially about 30 to 60 days that you can start looking at another position. I like to say 90 because it does take time for you to train and but it's not 90, right? So it could start as early as, the first 2 weeks. So you're like, whoa, you need to be a bartender. All these drinks, or you need to be a manager. And so those conversations can start, early. Now, if they need development, then that's a little bit different, right? And those conversations might take longer, but the important part is getting there, right? And making sure that you are the crutch for them to be able to get there. But yeah, I think they can start as early as they can, because you don't want to lose that employee, right?
Right. And I think part of it is you want to make sure that they're able to perform at a certain level in their job,
Yep.
To sort of, be the guideline to be able to be promoted. So, and I think having those discussions early, or at least when they're hired, here's the potential that you have to grow with our company based on how you're coming in, are always great. So in regard to evaluation and talent reviews, the line has put something in place. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing and why you feel they're important, and how often do you do the talent reviews?
Yeah. So all of our properties have a performance review, right? And so that's once a year, and then also when they first get hired. But on top of that, we started doing, and we have one property that is doing this right now. It's kind of like our test kitchen right now, but they're doing talent reviews at the Knit Nomad. And essentially what the team is doing, the management team, is looking at all of their employees and saying, you know what, listen, like, Maria's a star. We need to get her into management. She's already talked about management. So what are the next steps? And so it's kind of reviewing their profile, I guess you would say, and saying, okay, she already has this. This is what's on her resume. She needs this. She needs to know, the bar side, because she doesn't know it yet. And so, excuse me. And so those talent reviews are really, really helpful to be able to retain your talent and to keep them there. There's a couple things that we want to add and change the program. Like at the moment, the employees don't know that we're kind of doing a talent review. And it's also hourly, and then it's management as well. So I want to get them involved too, so that they know that we're doing this, right? So that, like, hey, listen, raise your hand up if you are interested in eventually becoming a GM, because sometimes it's funny. Like, I'll interview someone that's already, let's say, I don't know, a steward or something, right? And I'm doing an interview for a server position for them, and it's internal, right? And they talk about how they want to become a GM. And I'm like, what? I was like, I had no idea. And and your manager didn't either. Like, you share this with us. But that's the problem about communication with management, right? They're not having those one-on-ones, and they're not talking to their team about what comes up next. And that's a little bit what talent review is about. And eventually I want to roll this out to all of our properties, where we have a set standard of, okay, we have a profile for the employee. Can they move outside of, Austin, which is where one of our hotels is? Can they go to LA? Do they want specific? And so just kind of having that open conversation with them, because sometimes they're too shy and they don't want to say anything. And so I think that helps.
Claudia, your camera cut out. I'm not sure what happened.
Oh, let's see. You can't see me?
No. It's all right. We can finish the rest on the audio.
Yeah. So, Claudia, from an assessment standpoint, and especially for your management team and your senior leaders, are you using any assessments that are out on the market today to either hire or evaluate people, for promotions or for hire? Are you using any assessment tools that are out there?
No, not at the moment. We're very new into this program that we're trying to do, and so we're kind of exploring options. So we'll see what we find. But yeah, I think this talent review process, we wanna make sure that there is a tool that we have that employees can also input their information, right? Where can I move? Where do I see myself in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, and whatnot.
And what else are you doing to identify employees who are ready for promotion versus, those who may need additional development?
Yeah, I think the ones that are ready for the development and for the move, we definitely involve them in the process, right? As first, we want to make sure that that's what they want, right? Because like you said earlier, or maybe Alex said it, but some people like to be just where they are, right? And they don't want to become a supervisor, manager, or don't want to move it into a different position. So involving them in the process is really important. And for those that are not ready and maybe need a little bit more development, you have to focus on that, right? Because your team is as good as the worst person on your team. And so developing the ones that aren't ready is really important to the business.
Yep. You mentioned something earlier that got me thinking that, you implemented these talent reviews for conversations to ignite about where someone could possibly go. Now, before this, and I'm guessing that's why this was implemented, but before you started doing this, and I know you're in a pilot testing mode,
Mm-hmm.
who was expected to have those conversations, right? Because your managers are there to manage.
Yeah.
You want them to be great leaders and motivators and, a source of inspiration. But I guess it could be a hypothetical scenario, but who is really expected to drive those conversations forward? Because it comes from HR.
Yep.
Management has other priorities. Building their team is certainly one of them.
Yeah.
But prior to the talent review, what was expected when it came to internal growth and promotion?
Yeah, I think, like I said, communication is always key. And so what we expect would be for our managers to be able to communicate that information about promotion or, retaining them is really, I think annual reviews is really what we thought that,
Mhm.
was being communicated. But was it, right? Like, is that performance review just being like, you need to do better here, 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 and you're doing great here, 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 and then conversation is over, right? And so I think that's kind of where we were like, well, wait, we're failing what really we want this to be. And essentially, they're supposed to have one-on-ones with their team, but like you said, operations is different, right? And sometimes managers don't have the time because, hotels sold out or the restaurant sold out. And so, having that one-on-one, even just once a month is important. But again, is it happening? We don't monitor that, unfortunately.
Yeah. Now, if there's someone listening today that could make one change to their company overnight to improve retention, engagement, career development, what would you tell them to do?
One thing that my advice would be to give to employers on how to retain or how to recruit. I think, more retention for me, but I think would be listen to your employees. If they're telling you something, it's for a reason, right? And if you don't listen and make changes and ignore it, they're going to leave, right?
Yeah.
They're going to leave. And so I think sometimes we drop the ball by not listening to our employees that are right there in the front line. They know exactly what's happening and they know what works and what doesn't. And when we ignore that, you crumble.
There you have it. Well said, Claudia. I completely agree, right? If you're not aware of what's happening on the front line and you're not listening to those who are grinding away every day,
Yeah.
you're putting yourself in a position to not have the answers and to be providing solutions to problems that may not be happening. So I completely agree. And Claudia, really, really appreciate you, your insights, your thoughts, your sharing your background and your approach to HR. It was great chatting with you today. We really, really appreciate it. And we will be in touch soon.
Thank you so much. It was great to chat with both of you about one of my passions, and I really appreciate the time that you gave me on this platform to be able to share what I know, and this was fun, and I really loved it. So thank you.
Thank you, Claudia. We appreciate your time. Take care now.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, guys.
To the camera.
Thank you for tuning in to Hospitality Connection. We hope you found today's conversation insightful and inspiring. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and connect with us on LinkedIn and other social channels to keep the conversation going. Join us next week for more insights, stories, and strategies from the hospitality industry, because when we share knowledge, we all grow. Until then, stay connected and keep elevating hospitality.